I know, you've all told me that Target sucks, and I feel like the captain of the ship. I'm just going to go down with it because I don't plan to sell it. I don't plan to go get out. Stick around. It should be a great video. I'm going to talk a little bit about Target's earnings. I'm also going to get into Bitcoin a bit and the markets as we nervously anticipate Nvidia's earnings after the close. Hello, my YouTube friends. My name is Adam Cotton, and this is Investing with Adam K. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. We're waiting on NVIDIA earnings. Target came out, and you guys can all yell at me if you want in the comment section. I get it. It's possible that it doesn't look so great, especially this way the stock's responding. But here's the deal, there's good and there's bad with what came out with their quarterly earnings. And part of why I'm still sticking to it is what I said in the other videos, which is they're doing just fine and their earnings aren't so bad and they expected to be slowing down, which is why I'm a little thrown off as to why the stock reacted so poorly when they actually beat what FactSet had that they thought that their earnings would be. Now, to be fair, store earnings are down, quarterly sales were down. Those things are not great. But, the consumer is slowing down and the economy feels like it's slowing as well. So none of that comes as a big shock. I do expect that to continue for another year, and I think so does the market, which means that Target's probably pretty dead for a while, and I don't really see it rebounding or going straight back up. Now, that doesn't mean, as somebody who's collecting a dividend, that I'm not content getting that dividend because they make plenty of money to be able to make that payment. And they're not stuck in a position where they're just going to have to start borrowing and borrowing in order to be able to pay those dividend payments, which are over 5% at this point, which is not bad return. There are probably better options out there, but as somebody who's owned it for a little while, I don't mind sticking with it. I'll accept any negative comments in the comment section because I still don't see them being Sears or something like Kmart that just eventually went out of business. They just have to get their SHIP in order again and start pushing things where it's a better experience than going to Walmart for the same products at similar prices. Again, I still think that grocery area is a mess. Now, I didn't dig into their numbers to see if that's what part of the problem is. I'm just saying, as somebody who's been to Target and pays attention to some of this stuff, like, I don't understand the thought process on it. Maybe the new CEO will see some things in there and make some changes to improve some things. But I heard somebody talking earlier about these new stores that they're trying to remodel and the costs associated with it. I'm not sure that it's that they need to do, or maybe just clean it up and just improve a little bit, lower the prices, get some commercials out there that put a good spin on things, get that Target model going and stop being the place nobody wants to go. Because to be fair to all of you who hate it in the comment section, if they struggle and do that stuff too long, you could see it start becoming something like Kmart where nobody really goes there. At least for now, though, the parking lots are full, people are shopping there. And forgive me while I look over here, but I know that the online sales improved. To give you the number, hold on. So here's what it says in the report. Digital sales grew 2.4%, driven by over 35% growth in same day delivery through Target Circle, which I think is really good. Food and beverage and hard lines saw growth, which that actually surprised me because what I said earlier, I think their grocery section sucks. Third quarter operating income, which includes the impact of non recurring items, was $900 million, 18.9% lower than last year. So that's where they were really hurting. The operating margin rate was 3.8 compared with 4.6 in a year ago period. So inflation is hurting them in a way that I don't think it probably should have, because maybe the I don't know if it's the tariffs, but their margins are not doing so great. They have been doing some layoffs, which I'm guessing will help to improve that. Again, all of this stuff was kind of expected. And what I see as most optimistic is the digital sales growing, because going forward, the way that the world is going, I think digital is super important and more important than your in store sales. But The report sucks. That's why I say I'll take any of the beatings along with it. What I'll still stand by is they make plenty of money to pay a decent dividend, and I think there's room for them to improve. And I just hope they don't screw things up. Again, for those of you looking for like what a great thing to invest in right now is, maybe there are better things out there. I still think at $85 a share, which is where it was. I mean, I could look at it if you're curious and tell you where it is now. I still see it as a reasonable bargain. So it's not something I just want to get out of and move on to something else. Now, Bitcoin continues to struggle. And it actually is a concern of mine because I'm beginning to wonder who wags the tail. Is the tail wagging the dog, as the movie says, or is the dog wagging the tail, and which impacts which? Is Bitcoin going to drag the market down? And are there so many Bitcoin billionaires and millionaires out there that their spending is going to slow down if it really corrects to impact the stock market as well? I don't know the answer, but I meant what I said the other day. Nothing would really shock me in Bitcoin. And I am a Bitcoin believer. I don't want it heard the wrong way. So even when I say it wouldn't shock me if Bitcoin goes to zero, that isn't what I think will happen, but it still wouldn't shock me. It could be a tulip bulb. There is no way to have a valuation of it because the only valuation is what people agree they think it's worth. It's just an algorithm or a program that's run. It's pretty amazing. It was revolutionary, or kind of is. So it's all really cool. And maybe it becomes the store of value as we rotate towards digital currency. And it wouldn't shock me if it's $10 million a coin or $0 a coin, because we just don't really know what it is, even though it's been around a while. I do believe we are going to use digital currency. We already kind of do with things like Zelle and PayPal, Venmo, and the others. So it's already out there. What I love about the crypto space and digital currency are things like from when I own the restaurant. And if there are ways to avoid the fees that a lot of companies have to pay with credit cards. If I send some Solano somewhere, the cost is under a penny, and it really doesn't seem to matter how much you're moving around. So that's pretty amazing versus a credit card that's going to have the swipe fee plus probably approximately a 3% charge to most small businesses. Of course, a company like McDonald's can negotiate it, or some of the other big ones, but any typical mom and pop shop, they're going to have some real costs to that, making it very difficult. If they understood the crypto space, like I kind of talked to my buddy about it, that I would have accepted anything simply because why wouldn't I make it convenient for the customer? And if they had a product like Bitcoin or Solana where the costs are like pennies compared to the cost of credit card, I would take the risk of the market to accept that payment and just kind of convert it into what I wanted it into. I do want to talk a little bit about Nvidia and earnings coming out because it concerns me a bit. Not like I got no concerns about Nvidia. I think they're a great company. It's not one I really own a position in, but I do pay attention to it. What I'm concerned about is when the stock market is sitting and waiting, holding their breath, hoping that some company comes out with earnings that save the market. I worry that it typically doesn't happen. And what I expect is Nvidia to have great earnings, Jensen Huang to come out and say wonderful things, and the stock probably to go lower. Now, as always, this is not financial advice. Please don't listen to me when making financial decisions. You need to reach out to a financial advisor when you're making your financial choices. As I'm just some guy on YouTube sharing my thoughts. It's entertainment purposes only. And when I'm talking about Nvidia, it's a total guess. I'm just telling you based on things I've seen in the past, and it just has a little bit of a concerning air to me because when everybody holds and waits and hopes that this is the thing that saves things, I find generally it's a bit of a disappointment. And what I think the disappointment will be is the way that the stock reacts, not necessarily the actual earnings, because my guess is based on what Meta and Google and Amazon and all of them said at their earnings in terms of their capital expenditures, that Nvidia's earnings should be really good. I mean, they're all spending more and more money. We don't know what the payoff is going to be at the end, which is a little bit of the concern of the market. And I think a little bit of what's weighing on it is the Fed in December, because we've gone from pretty much a 100% chance of a cut to now not looking so good. And when the Fed released their minutes, kind of hinting it, they're leaning more towards not cutting than cutting. And I hate to admit, because I am not political, but I kind of agree with Trump on it that I think they're going to fall behind the eight ball. I don't want to see unemployment get worse and worse and worse. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on it. Maybe AI is the problem and not rates and what the Fed can do. But we have to stick to the things that have worked in the past and not try to make guesses. And I would try to get ahead of it instead of letting unemployment get out of control. Now, this is just my thoughts on it. And obviously, I am not one of the Fed chairmen. I'm not on the board. I don't get to vote. But unemployment to me is a more important part of their dual mandate than the inflation. I would rather see people employed with a job dealing with inflation than unemployed. Now, Powell said years ago the only way to start a boom cycle is to cause a crash. And maybe that's in the back of his head. I just don't think that it's so wonderful to have a crash. I don't think people having unemployment, having no job, dealing with a really bad economy for a few years while things wash out so that we can start again and have a new boom cycle is necessarily a great direction to go. Uh, Me personally, I would rather make people deal with the inflation part of things and try to save the economy from having that big correction and those big boom and bust cycles in general. So, just my thought on it, but I do feel like the market is sitting there holding its breath at every new thing and reacting really not so perfectly. The volatility index, which is the fear and greed, is a little bit too high. The spending is too much. The inflation's an issue. And now, if you add the unemployment and you put people out of work, that just becomes a lot of things weighing. And what I kind of envision, and these are just guesses, is a potential down move until the Fed meeting, the Fed possibly not cutting, and similar to what I'm saying about Nvidia, maybe that's the end of the down move, where the market goes to start to wash out, but people have already gotten out by then. And maybe it gives an opportunity for the stocks to start recovering, even if the Fed doesn't cut. Anyway, these are just ideas. Anybody's idea is as good as anybody else's, which is why I say it is not financial advice. And predicting the future, I mean, maybe I should be like rolling some dice and rubbing them in blood and whatever else to come up with some crazy cockamamie idea of what you think. Um, I'm not thrilled that the markets haven't been doing great, but to be perfectly honest, overall, it's actually held up pretty well, and we're not too far off the highs. So I would kind of question what your risk is and how much, like if you're over risk on, if you've had too big a swing in this current down move, so to speak. Anyway, as always, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, make some comments in the comment section. I want to get this edited and updated. We only got about 50 minutes to the close, so I do want to watch NVIDIA's earnings. If I have a little bit of energy and I don't have to pick my son up, which odds are I do have to pick him up, maybe I'll talk about the earnings and what Jensen said and do another video today if I have time. Thumbs up. Have a good day. I'm glad people made the live. I am going to do it again next Tuesday, even though it's Thanksgiving. So don't forget, Tuesdays at 11 o'clock live. I know that the time probably sucks for a lot of people because people work, but I like that platform. I would actually do more lives if I was more organized. But have a great day. Again, subscribe, like, comment. Bye bye.